Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday Live with Alan and Greg and Jim from Books, Reading, and Stuff. So,
Hello,
how is
everyone.
everyone doing tonight? Pretty
Good.
good?
I'm doing well. It's 10 a.m. here, but I've been up for a few hours.
Well, you always get up really early, as I remember.
Yeah, I'm an insomniac and I stay up half the night. How about you, Jim?
It's been a quiet day here. I'm not working because it's the school holidays. So I'll be teaching again back in September. So
What does your hat say?
this one says Audi, the car brand. I don't have an Audi, just little one. No.
Mine's for the old Oregon Ducks football
Oregon
team.
Ducks. See, I'm sort of being political here. I'm saying Cat Daddy.
Greg's definitely a cat daddy. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of political videos on YouTube. Once you watch one or two of them, you don't even have to like them. You know, you keep getting them.
They're like crack, especially at this time of year. So
they are.
So I'm sort of curious, Jim. Does the American politics get a lot of play in Georgia, or they just ignore it?
Well, they all know who Trump is. I don't know if they know who Harris and Waltz are, or Vance, but everybody knows who Trump is.
Do they have favorable opinions of him, or are they sort of like?
I think there's both sides here.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely both sides here. It just I'm amazed at the people who support him. I just am. I can't get over the blatant lies. You don't have to really even fact check when the guy says that his crowd size was bigger than Martin Luther King. I don't have to fact check that.
I know it's getting to the point. My wife and I are joking. I'm sorry we're talking a little bit of politics before the books, but we're expecting a complete meltdown of Trump sometime for November.
It's not funny. They're saying his family and wife, if they love him at all, should be concerned about the guy.
Yeah.
But the problem,
low hanging fruit.
It is.
Hey,
Winterland, yep. You caught us from the beginning, just about.
Yes, it's a different time because of my time zone here.
Well, it's a whole different group of viewers usually when we have our afternoon shows and our evening shows. So I kind of like to stir it up to see who we can get. Oh,
don't get me started.
Please do talk politics.
Don't get me started. But, I like having like Monday evenings off sometimes too. Now, Greg and I are going to be taking like one day off a month, or try to, from here on out, because there's something going on like kind of like a farmer's market, but with retail too, down the street from me. I like to go to that, and I used to help them set up the canopies, and it's not big, it's just like a parking lot, small parking lot between restaurants. But yeah, I like my neighborhood.
Yeah, I've always liked Portland. The times I visited Portland, I used to like it. Like when I lived up near Seattle, it was like a 2.5 hour drive. So
yeah, they're kind of cleaning up the place too. They finally criminalize drugs again, so you can't shoot heroin or smoke methamphetamine on the street anymore. And they don't even arrest you. They offer you treatment in that. It's a cool place to live. Very liberal.
Well, I've often said that making drugs illegal and criminal is going to basically ensure that it's a crime and people do a lot of criminal acts.
I mean, we have needle exchanges, and you'll
Yeah.
see, like even in parks, needle disposals, and visitors are kind of shocked by it at first. Go, wow, but it's a health issue.
It is. I mean, there was a study in England, I think it was the 70s, where they temporarily made heroin legal and offered it, and their crime rates just plummeted.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go to Amsterdam too to visit. They're everything's like free and
Yeah, Portugal, it's decriminalized.
Yeah. So we can say hi to Constance. Hello.
Hey,
Morning.
Constance.
Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth.
Bonjour, bonsoir. Ouais,
Bonsoir.
bonjour. In Canada, bonsoir. In Georgia, it's bonjour.
I know.
Bonjour.
I've taken up learning French on Duolingo recently.
C'est bien ça. Nous pouvons continuer en français, non?
Well, I've only been doing it for 40 days, so
That's good.
talk to me in a year, and I might be able to answer something back in French.
Is this for the Proust?
No, this is sort of my emergency out because my father was born in Paris, France. I theoretically can apply for citizenship, but I would have to pass a French language exam.
Let me ask you another question then. Are you and the lovely wife planning like a trip over to Gay Paris?
Not this year. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year, though? Excellent. Yep. Cool.
Yeah. I used to work.
I used the Duolingo to for Italian. I tried to. This was a long time ago. I'd love to learn Italian. I was talking. Oh yeah, Adam Savage sends his regards, Greg. I
cool.
Live talked to him on Facebook. We're setting up some things to do, but boy, he's a guy for the languages and that.
Mm-hmm.
I really respect people and am impressed by people who speak.
It's really hard.
Like Jim.
I was going to get down here is like constantly, how is Duolingo? Is it the paid version? Yes, I do have the paid version. I tried the free version, but it was just so annoying with their ads that you have to pay. The only problem is there's a paid version and then there is a premium paid version.
Paid and the premium.
Yeah, like you have lessons, and if you make a mistake and you say, "What's my mistake?" They say, "Well, we'll only tell you it's wrong, but we won't tell you why it's wrong."
Oh,
you have to pay for that. I have not gone to the premium lessons yet. It's not the. I mean, the best way to learn French would have been when I was young and go visit France for a while, and then you come back and speak in it.
Or even better yet, get a French girlfriend.
That would have worked too.
That's what I should have did in Phoenix. Not get a French girlfriend, but get a Mexican girlfriend. Boy, I would have ate well and damn, missed out.
So Winter is saying, I always find it funny when you Americans say the country with European capitals.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, not all languages capitalize, like French. When you says Français, you don't capitalize the F for France.
Oh,
that's what I think.
I never noticed it. Huh. Now I'll notice it all the time.
Well, every language is different.
Yeah. Georgian has no capital letters.
Really?
Really? It's all the same. It has a different alphabet, but no capital letters, which is very confusing when you're reading because you don't know what's a normal word and what's a name of a city or a person. It's because there's no capitals.
But wouldn't a native speaker of Georgian sort of know that just by context? Because they're so used to it?
Yeah, but you don't realize how useful it is in English and other languages that do have capital letters until you don't have them.
Because If I remember correctly, Latin, when it was originally written and spoken back in the old day, didn't have capital letters or small, or every letter was a capital letter or something like that.
Yeah, I think every letter looks a capital in Latin
Mm-hmm.
in the old inscriptions.
All right. So
And
yeah, she's given Paris, France.
And Germany has capitals for every noun.
Right.
And French doesn't have capitals for the days of the week, but English does. So there's some differences between them.
Yeah.
So Diane, hello, Diane.
Hello,
Hello,
Diane.
all you can guess. I missed the intros.
We were just talking about our chapeaus.
Yeah. Is the main town spelled capital? Not quite sure. She's going with that.
I think that might be
Okay.
for Jim.
Might be.
No, even like Tbilisi is spelled with just a normal T, like in
Right.
They just do not have capital letters.
yeah, like Tavi is head, and Tbilisi they have the same T at the beginning, the same sound. It's not a T, but it's that.
All right. Let's talk about the books we've been reading. So, Jim, as our guest, you get to hold out the first.
On Alan's recommendation, I'm reading this Black Leopard, Red Wolf. I've been reading it 2 months now, and I've got about 100 pages left to go. It's been described in the past as the African Game of Thrones, but I'm not getting that vibe. There are some things like there's a mad king and there's somebody gets their hand chopped off, but it's not really like that at all. It's not really much to do with George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. It's a lot more literary than Game of Thrones. And
a lot of sex in it too.
There's a lot of sex, a lot of
variety, a lot of different varieties of sex.
Yeah, a lot of violence.
Yeah, Marlon James is known for his violence. That's not even his most violent book.
No,
it's I like Marlon James a lot.
And it's an unreliable narrator, and it's a non-linear plot line. And some wonderful descriptions, and a lot of the characters are speaking in riddles, so you never know who's telling the truth or what the truth is. They tell things different ways, and they don't understand each other. There's lots of miscommunication.
I love books with unreliable narrators where you're trying to figure out really what's going on from what they say. So,
yeah. And they say the other two books of the trilogy is the same story but told from different characters. This is told from Tracker. The next is told from the witch's point of view, and the next I don't know which one.
I've read the second one too. Like we were talking at Spider Woman, Witch something Spider, and I enjoyed it too. So I'm glad you're finding it well, Jim.
Yeah. And I'm doing what I don't usually do, is reading two books of the same genre at the same time. This is also fantasy, but very different.
Oh yeah.
The Fragile Threads of Power. It's the fourth book in the Color of Magic, in the Shades of Magic series by V. Schwab, set in these four parallel Londons. There's a grey London where the magic has gone. It's like our London, but in the 19th century. There's a red London that's still got all the magic. The white London, they want the magic. And there's a black London that's just been decimated because the magic got out of control.
Okay.
And there's these magicians, Antari, who can go between the different worlds, but there's not many of them.
I would enjoy that, I bet.
I don't read a lot of fantasy, but next month I've committed to read, I guess it's a romantasy. It's a Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah Moss or something.
Yeah, because of the Utah ban.
Because of the Utah ban, we're standing with banned books and saying we're going to read it, and we may have a live stream discussion on it at the end of September. That's still up in the air, but there's a Voxer group and there's a group on my Discord channel. So if anyone wants to read along or just read it and support banned books, because as I see it, it kind of helps to point out that we're just going to read these books when you ban them. And I'm seriously thinking of going to a place like Costco if they have buying a copy of it and sticking in a little free library with a banned book sticker.
Huh.
So
Okay. I've got one Sarah J. Maas on my Kindle, The Assassin in the Underworld. It's a novella.
Oh, I have that too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just curious. It's to read Sarah J. Maas because she does well in the Goodreads awards. She's usually the top fantasy writer or second in the fantasy. So I just wanted to see what she's like. She's okay.
if you read, is she really young adult, or is that just a miscategorization?
I think some of her books are young adult. It's not very demanding in a literary way.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was a teen, we didn't have young adult, but in the library they had teen reads, which is
We did not have that distinction in the United States. We just had kids' books and adult books. And
yeah. When I was 15, I was mostly getting out adult books like science fiction, Clifford D. Seamack, Robert Silverberg, and the horror like James Herbert.
Sure.
Yeah. And the Utah ban seems quite misogynistic. Like 12 of the 13 titles are by women.
Yep. And I'm gonna skip over a couple, but Ariane says, hold on. Hi y'all, Utah not only wants to ban the books, but have the books burned. Now that is just completely insane. I may not like it. From all the ways people described it, I may not like this book, but I'm definitely going to try to read it. I have the free audio version from Audible, and I may try to pick up a Kindle book or a paperback, but it's the point of people trying to ban books that really gets under my craw and saying, look, if you don't like it, you don't have to read it. It's really simple. Now, the one thing that Ariane mentioned about wanting to burn books, there was a woman in Missouri, or was it Missouri or Minnesota? I think it was Missouri, who was running for the Republican Congress seat. And her advertisement was her with a flamethrower burning gay and lesbian books.
I remember that.
And she finished 6th out of 7th. So people didn't take to burning books with flamethrowers.
No. This would go with the LGBT books. There's a lot of the main character Tracker is gay.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So is the leopard as well. The leopard's a shapeshifter. This would probably be burnt if they knew about it. Although it's not a woman that wrote it.
But it is a black man that wrote it.
Yeah,
surprised that they didn't ban it just for that.
Yeah, he's gay, Jamaican.
Is he gay?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I did not know that. I read his book about Bob Marley and
Secret History of Seven Killings.
History of Seven Killings. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, well, I said the Secret History of Seven Killings.
No, I think it's just called. It's called a brief. I see it on my shelf. A Brief History of Seven Killings.
Right, and A Secret History is a Donna Tartt novel, but
right.
That's not even those two books aren't even his most violent book. Me and Courtney at Tangible Reads, I got her to buddy read with me. What's the name of it? A book of Women.
Night
Women.
Women.
Violent book I've ever read over. Cormac McCarthy, or I'm not talking about it. It's not extreme horror or anything. It's just slavery in 1800s Jamaica, and that where they're use your own imagination. But He's a great writer, in my opinion. I like him a lot.
Yeah. So let's say hi to Lee. Good morning. Hey, Randy Ray is here. Hello, Randy.
Yeah, I talked to Randy on Voxer quite a bit. So glad to see you, Randy.
Hey, Jenny's here too. Hi, Jenny.
Hey, Jenny, she's got a channel now.
She does. She did the newbie tag.
Mm-hmm.
Randy said, "This isn't your usual." No, it isn't. That's
It's
because
my
we got Jim here, and he's all the way in Georgia, and it's like 9:20 out there. So
9:20 p.m. here.
9:20 p.m. We have to make adjustments for our world guests.
Right. Last week we had Adam Savage on from Adam Abroad, and it was one day later.
Yeah, it was Tuesday morning live for him.
Yeah.
All right. Jenny, I've heard Sarah J. Moss compared to junk food. You know you're getting nothing great, but you can't stop yourself from reading. So Diane says, I want to read it because I'm shocked about the whole series being banned. Ugh, so sad. Those books were so popular on social media. I read that they're now considered new adults. Okay. Diane, you can go to MJ's channel, Reading This Life. She has a whole video and you can from there track how to contact her on Voxer, or you can wait until tomorrow. This evening, I'm going to do my own announcement, and I will leave links to my Voxer and my Discord, and you can join that way. So there's a couple different ways you can join in the group read.
Superb.
Yep. Ariane. Oh, you're reading the Garbology.
Yeah.
Speaking of MJ, I think MJ's story in this is really good. It's one of the standouts for me.
I don't want to get over it, but so far MJ's story has been my favorite.
Is your favorite?
So far, no, I've not finished the whole book.
Right. I haven't read hers yet. I've only read Gareth's story Itch.
Mm-hmm.
I read that on my electronic version. But
I'm basically reading one story a day. Now, I did read doubled up some days, so I will finish the Garbology on August 30th.
Yeah.
So Jim, how far along are you in that anthology?
It's about 25%. It's about a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, I think I'm about the same. Hold on, let me check where I am on this.
Meantime, I'll show my little claim to fame. Here's my drawing that appears in the. You show that now?
I'm at 46%.
46. You're further ahead than me.
I just finished Cryptoid Singles Camp. I actually it's a very lightweight story, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's the idea of Garbology.
It is.
It's not deep, but it's fun.
Yeah. Always got a story in here. Our friend Shannon from Shannon's channel's in here. Jim from Mystery and Mayhem is in here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm not sure. Like then in the back, some people mentioned their YouTube channels. I did the author and artist bios, but so I'm gonna try to make some new friends off this for sure.
Okay. So Ariane says because if they threw them in dumpsters, kid would climb in to get them. Yeah. Burning books is pretty old school.
Yeah.
It is. Now the one thing is, as horrible as book burning is, if they were to burn books now, it would just be plastered all over the news and saying, do you really want this for the country? Burning books? And you can do that famous book burning in Germany from the 30s. I know Winter was saying she wanted more politics, so got a little more politics coming in.
Don't make me get my Beatles records out.
Yeah,
They used to burn Beatles records.
I know.
How dare you?
Randy Ray saying hi. People saying hi. It's better to be seen than viewed, I always say. Diane saying okie dokie. I think she's referring back to my how to join the read along of the Court of Thorns and Roses. I completely forgot I'd ordered the book to my Kindle till it showed up on the 1st. She's probably talking about the Garbology.
Yeah, a lot of people are ordering the book.
Mm-hmm.
Available on Amazon.
It is. So any other books, Jim, you want to talk about? Are you?
Well, there's this as well that I showed before. This is 8 Kids in a Truck. It's a Norwegian book translated in Georgian. One of my goals for my reading year is to read one book in Georgian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this is for 7 to 9-year-olds, so it's not young adult even. It's about the level of my Georgian.
Well, Jim,
we're impressed by people who know, more than one language. You're that much more smarter than I. That's how I feel. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Well, Britons and Americans tend to be monolingual, but other countries, they tend to speak at least one other language. And you go to Switzerland or Luxembourg, it's like 4 other languages, or India, they got several languages.
I know, but there's a joke for that, Jim. People who speak 3 or more languages are called polylingual. Someone who speaks 2 languages is bilingual. Someone who speaks 1 language is American.
Yeah. Or British.
Or British, okay.
The British are not good with languages either. We did do French in school, but most people were not anywhere near fluent in French by the time they left school.
I can tell you by studying the Duolingo, if I want to get fluent, it's going to take a little more effort than practicing on my phone for 20 minutes a day, which is about the same as what you get in a classroom probably.
Well, if you wanted to, Greg, you could get, seriously, private lessons on that. I wonder how expensive those could be. I mean, not too bad.
I think it'd be a little more difficult to hire private lessons.
Maybe you could chat with Elizabeth in French.
Well, maybe next year on Voxer, I'll send her a chat in French when I'm a little more up to the.
That's a good idea.
We have a memorial about the book burnings in the 30s in Berlin. Well, it's good that people are not forgetting that. All right. So Alan, what have you been reading lately?
Well, I'm going to have to switch hats first because I've been reading. I got this really cool beaded hat, and it has a logo on it and everything. Can't remember where I got it. Probably Phoenix, but we're midway through Faulkner in August, so I've been trying not to finish this book. It's hard to, I've read it before, of course. It's funny, I have 2 copies and they're both annotated. When I go through a book for first or second time, I'll put like the dates on it and who I read it with and that. Try to use different colors ink. But so finding that great. And then I'm reading this along with a subgroup of Faulkner and August on Voxer. We have a Unburied Sing group. This by National Book Award winner Jasmine Ward. I've read this before and even reviewed it in my playlist under book reviews, but I do remember it now that I'm halfway through the book too. But it's a good companion book to read with As I Lay Dying. A lot of similarities I'm finding. Then I'm trying to get into this book. I've read a couple, 2-3 chapters. Oh, Teddy. Hey, Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy came up to say hi.
Hey, Teddy. My favorite cat. The Secret Sex Lives of Angels. And I don't do well when I read before I lie down in bed. I have a light on my wall turn on. So I've read 2, 3 chapters. I still couldn't even tell you what it's about. I think I could just something about the
Is
president.
it fiction or is it nonfiction?
It's fiction.
All right.
And it's about like the president. And, so far, I'm not really enthralled with it, to say the least. That's about it. I've got something on my Kindle too. I'm with the band. I've been trying to read. It's a story about a famous groupie and their exploits in the 60s, 70s.
Pamela Des Barres?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
her.
Yeah,
That
I
was
read that a long time ago.
that was huge, hugely popular book back in the 80s when I was working at a place called Crown Books.
Oh,
That they just had
Wow.
stacks of that book. They were just going
Wow.
out the door.
yeah. I haven't really got into that either because I love Faulkner and August. I like going just kind of throwing myself into that. I've been reading Civil War books, and not that As I Lay Dying takes place in Civil War, but there's always that flavor with Faulkner. So I'm trying to get in at August and read some trash.
Okay.
I think if you want to mention, you said you're not. I think you already read the book, right? As I Lay Dying.
No, as I lay it, I'm currently reading it. I'm just not getting into it as I should be. Part of it is I'm discovering about myself. I'm not a piecemeal reader. I can't read a couple chapters and pick up another book and then come back to this book and read some more chapters. It just I lose my energy and steam. So
well, that's good to learn that.
yeah, this is we do it a lot on BookTube, and I think I just have to decide that I just need to put everything down and finish this and just get ahead of everyone so I can really get into the book. But for Garbagist, I have just finished Nick Carter, The Defector. Now, you notice here on the spine, it's the author is listed as Nick Carter. Nick Carter is also the main character in this book. So it's sort of like one of those things where they say, oh yeah, this is a real book that he's writing from true life, I guess. But this is sort of like a James Bond character. He works for like a secret American government agency that has to go out and solve problems. And the plots are ridiculous. In this one, there's a Chinese American scientist working for NASA who is discovering a lotion that you can put on your skin that will protect you from radiation.
Sun cream.
Just go with it. So then he announces that he is defecting to China. And of course, he's not really defecting to China. The Chinese have captured his wife and his son, and they're threatening to kill him unless he comes to China and gives them the formula. So it's up to Nick Carter to save the day. And of course, there are always beautiful enemy agents. And what is a real spy man supposed to do with a beautiful enemy agent?
Make love to her.
Yeah, Howard, how did you possibly guess?
I've read a few Ian Fleming books.
It's amusing. The writing is predictable. It's a fast story, but it's entertaining. And there's hundreds of these books. I mean, Ian Fleming has like 12 or 13 books. There's a couple hundred in the Nick Carter series. Now, the only problem is that there's more than one author for this series. They had like 4 or 5 authors, so they could pump out like 6 a year or something like that. And I'm getting to the point where I'm recognizing that some of these books are better than others, and I really should start doing my research and finding out who the actual author of this book is. So, because this in the series was one of the better ones. Some of them I didn't like so much, but this one I kind of liked a lot. So I
They
had
make
fun.
a really interesting video. Compare, and find out the authors.
Yep.
Very cool.
So let's get to some comments. Jenny saying, you need a guitar with that hat, Alan.
I can hear you.
Nice work with the hat, says Roy. Yeah, that just sort of happens.
That sentence reads, "Nice hat work, fellas." That was all the idea. I'll go ahead and read the comments, but I want to say something about Jim in a second.
Yeah, here's Ariane. Question for Jim. Does he have a favorite book that he has read in the last 2 or 3 months?
Yes, Jim.
This is the last 5-star book I read. We're talking about Sarah J. Maas. This is Frida McFadden. This is like a popcorn thriller with lots of twists. It's not great literary fiction, but it's very gripping. And you want to know what's happening. And there's always lots of twists in a Frida McFadden. So that was the last one I gave 5 stars to. There's been lots of 4-star books. I like Babel was a 4-star book. A Room of One's Own is good.
I'd like to read, you said Babel?
Babel, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to read that by.
It was good. I gave it 4 stars. I thought the main character was well developed, but the characters around were more stereotypical. But it's a very interesting look at language, and the language is connected to the magic and the imperialism. And
now, would you recommend to me one of her other books to read first?
No, I think of the book, I've only read The Poppy War and Babel. I'd recommend Babel because it's a standalone. The Poppy War is the first of 3.
Yeah.
It's good. It's all about the the Poppy War, the Opium Wars that the British instigated to get the Chinese trade.
Boy, man. To commit to 5 in a series. But I bet I would really enjoy those.
I have Babel on my Kindle, and I'm just. How long is that book?
It's about 500 pages, just over 500 pages.
Over 500 pages.
Quite easily. This is really good. A Room of One's Own, Virginia Woolf.
I have not read that yet.
Me neither. I'd like to.
It was in Steve Donohue's top 10 books of all time.
Whoa.
Although I had it before because he's just done a top 10. But it's non-fiction. It's about the problems of women writing before Virginia Woolf's time.
Right.
And that she said if they were able to have a room of their own and the income, like £500 in 1920s England, they'd be okay. But this wasn't available to them.
No.
Like if Shakespeare had a sister, as she calls Judith, that she'd never get anywhere, even if she had the same genius as William Shakespeare, because she was a woman.
You know, that's kind of curious. Someone earlier this year or late last year came up with a theory that the Shakespeare plays were written by Shakespeare's sister, which I think is, you know, there's a bit of controversy about his plays, and they're fun to talk about, but I think that one's pushing it.
Yeah, the idea of Shakespeare's sister comes from this, like 100 years ago.
Oh, so someone just picked it up and ran with it.
Yeah, she's just imagining that Shakespeare having a sister, not suggesting he had a sister, and that if he did have a sister and she had the same genius, she wouldn't get anywhere because she was a woman. And it's like female writers in the 19th century, a lot went by male names to get published, like George Eliot, George Sand. And the Brontes started with male names to try to get published.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Jane Austen didn't have a room of her own. She was writing in a crowded parlor her notes and her stories.
Indeed.
So Ariane says, Alan, what are your recs for Civil War? I'm planning a Civil War themed reading project soon.
Oh, well, I get all my recs for well, not all of them, but a lot from Greg. So, but what did you think of Rebel for a fiction?
No,
you didn't like that.
Bernard Cornwell. No, I didn't really like that one. Well, there's two ways to approach the Civil War. One is through nonfiction, and then fiction. The problem is that the best history of the Civil War. Hold on, I can show you. And I hope you're sitting down. Okay. This is a huge commitment, but you will learn a lot about the Civil War. I've only read the first volume. I have another really good, and this one, if you want to go nonfiction, for the entire Civil War, Battle Cry of Freedom, who is this again, by James McPherson. This will give you a very good overview. You won't get down to the weeds, but you will understand the Civil War. The best Civil War nonfiction that I've actually read recently was A Worse Place Than Hell. Thank you, Alan. That's actually very condensed about one battle, and that's the Battle of Fredericksburg. And not to pump the book, but I live in Fredericksburg, so I live next to the battlefield, or close to the battlefield.
And I have the pamphlets, or not the brochure, but the tour. You get a pamphlet, and that I got it hanging on my wall.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that's for fiction.
Go ahead.
The two that you should really probably read for fiction is The Killer Angels by Michael Shara.
Mm-hmm.
That is about the Battle of Gettysburg. And it's just a magnificent novel. And actually that novel, as I understand it, is still taught at military academies about military strategy, because it's really well done. I mean, it's all out of date, but the strategy and how to rule from the battlefield is all so well done. And sort of general is the Stephen Crane, Red Badge of Courage.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's not specifically mentioned which battle that's talking about, it's a good overview about the American Civil War. So those are my recommendations.
The Red Badge of Courage was also one of the first books about war that didn't glorify it. The central character is fleeing from the war, trying to get out.
That it's saying war is a bad thing.
Stephen Crane's a great writer. He died far too young.
He died like 30.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame. I mean, as much as I think the Red Badge of Courage is good, and some of his short stories are good, I love his poetry. Some of his poems are just very poignant, and you could see this young man dealing with all these deep thoughts that he's putting in these short little poems. And none of his poems are more than like 10 or 12 lines usually, but they're really good.
He's a favorite poet of a lot of people. He's the poet's poet in a way.
You like it because sometimes you read a poem and you sort of miss the point. But in his, he has a very strong point. He has a very strong vision. It's like, I saw a man pursuing the horizon. How was it? Around and around they fled. I stopped him and said, It's futile. And I'm getting it wrong. You lied, the man cried, and ran on.
Oh, that's impressive, Greg. Impressive indeed.
Yeah, that's not a verbatim quote. So I had to paraphrase a little bit, but very close.
Sure, off the top of your head.
Hello. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Aaron.
Then Book Corner. Hey, then. We're just catching up. I know we're about 10 minutes behind on comments. So Roy said, I'm reading Nick Carter 2, Night of the Generals. Good so far. It's a shame that the real authors don't get a nod, as in Matt Boland book, small print. Okay. Just out of curiosity, Roy, when was your Nick Carter published? Mine was from 1969. And I have some going up like 1989, somewhere around there. So impressive run. Spread Book Joy. Hello. Glad to catch some of the live. Awesome hats, everyone. Thank you again. My cat daddy. Being political today.
I don't have any political hats.
Yeah. I woke up with mine.
Hey, Pete.
You remember Pete's real name?
Yes, I do. I just, it popped into my head. I was about to say his real name. I know it's not super secret, but.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't now.
No. If he wants to put it in, he can.
Yeah. Good to see you, though.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on the show.
Adrian, cool. I think I read it as a 14-year-old. Oh, here's Ariane. I missed her. Roy Reed. I'm reading my first Matt Boland book. Now, that's The Executioner, Matt Boland, I think, by originally Don Pendleton. I read the first one in that series, War Against the Mafia, and I was not as enamored with that series as some people are. Oh, there's Jim saying, have on read Confederates by Thomas Keeley and The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. All right, we mentioned that before. Ariane says, yikes, Greg. I guess she's talking about my Shelby Foote 3-volume Civil War.
Or your resuscitation.
The Russian Civil War was brutal.
See, I don't know anything about the Russian Civil War, really.
That was around the early 1920s, and there was a lot of reports.
Oh, you talk about the Russian Revolution.
There was a revolution and there was a civil war.
Okay.
There were in St. Petersburg. They resorted to cannibalism. A lot of people. It was very brutal.
I thought that was during World War II when they were the siege.
World War II, there was the siege of Leningrad.
That was Leningrad then.
Yeah.
All right. So Diane said great tips and recommendations about the Civil War. Ariane says all great recommendations. Roy says his comes from 1978. Oh, Greg says, I found a poem called Killmaster for this week's Poetry Thursday. All right.
Look forward to hearing that.
I wonder if it has anything to do with this Killmaster.
Has anybody been following the Olympics?
No.
Oh, I have. Yeah, I watch it at night. Usually muted with a book in front of my face, or I've been doing a lot of like old school draft drawing for a project. But I watched it. Ireland's been winning a couple gold medals on the pommel horse. Mm-hmm. Irish guy won. Then they won for something. I have some friends, acquaintances in Ireland, so we talk back and forth about it. What have you liked about it, Jim?
I haven't watched much. I saw the 100 meters and 200 meters for the men and the women, which was the 100 meters for the men was impressive. They were all very tightly together for the finish. But I've also been seeing a lot on the YouTube about the controversies about the boxing, about the Australian hip hop.
Oh yeah, about her testosterone levels and
Iman Khalif, the Algerian boxer who got the gold medal, and she was born a woman, but she's got
right.
higher levels of testosterone than most women. But that's natural. It's not like she's trans or anything.
No.
But
Right.
the anti-woke mob are getting really upset about it.
Yeah, well, they're just looking for reasons to get upset about something, and
And they got really upset about the opening ceremony.
Right.
there was something
There was
about
less
someone
than-
mentioned that something
less
about
than-
the opening ceremony that got people bunged.
Because it looked like the Last Supper in a way.
Yeah, it looked like Last Supper, but it's supposed to be some Greek god's
Yeah,
party. Like,
exactly.
Oh, they had a drag show at the thing, didn't
Yeah.
is that it? All right.
so it became the woke Olympics because of,
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I didn't catch the opening, but
and
yeah.
there's an Australian doing some breakdancing that everybody's piling in upon now because it was very different to the usual breakdancing.
I enjoyed watching the gymnastics. It's amazing they fly through the air like that. But you know, the one I found myself watching, you don't need the sound for it either, is synchronized swimming.
I saw parts of that in a bar. I was having beer and chicken wings, and I saw all the women. It's like I remember synchronized swimming is just women, I guess men too, just swimming in the same motion.
With
But now
their
they're
legs out of the
flipping
water.
each other in the air, and
Yeah, it's really cool to watch them.
I imagine how hard it would be to be swimming or dog paddling and lifting someone up, toss them in the air.
It's all like in the abdomen.
I have no idea. Way beyond anything I know.
Just like harmonica playing. You know, it's all down there.
You're remembering your synchronized swimming days, Alan?
No, I just liked it was really tranquil and relaxing, and found myself like getting mesmerized. But here's a comment.
Yep.
Dr.
Diane
Zhivago.
says, I do know Dr. Zhivago came out during the Russian Civil War.
That's a book I'd like to read.
Pasternak is one of the 4 Russian Nobel laureates for literature.
Right. Now, as I understand it, that's really the only thing he's ever written.
It's the only thing I know of his.
And the Vladimir Nabokov, he wrote Lolita, absolutely detested that novel.
Oh, he did.
Oh, he was just, I don't have my note, but he's like, he completely slammed it.
Well,
And-
Roz had scaled down about the books. It's one of her like favorite, at least Russian novels.
Okay, well, I don't think Nabokov is right about everything, but he had very strong opinions about that.
Well, in that case, I won't read it.
No, don't listen to Nabokov. I actually kind of want to read it too. It's just a long book, and I think it's going to be difficult, so I'm putting it off.
Yeah, I have books like that too. Like Trish, I was talking yesterday about Tristan Shandy. I've had that book on my shelf for
Warren Stern.
yeah.
I've had that book. I've been meaning to read that since the 80s.
Yeah, basically me too. But yeah, we'll get around to it.
Did you ever read it?
Could go in the banned books, and also this one as well, Master and Margarita.
Master and the Margarita, yes.
Because it was published posthumously because it was too scandalous to be published during Stalin's era. Yeah, with the
Yeah,
cat.
I read it.
I've not read it yet. Boy, small print in my edition, But I'm waiting for my
Yeah,
Libby. I'm waiting for the audiobook to come. You want to buddy read this, Jim?
I've read it already.
So you don't want to read it again?
Not really.
You can coach me through it. No, maybe.
Russian literature. I prefer the Anna Karenina, which is a big one.
Oh yeah, I love that book. Big spoiler in that book.
I've got notes from the underground on my TBR, Dostoevsky.
I've read that a couple of times.
Well, maybe we can buddy read that, Jim. I've not read that.
I mean, it's not a long book. It's like 110 pages long. So
Adam Savage wants to buddy read Candide with me. That's
Candide is cool. You can do that in that. That's 100 pages.
Yeah. Then we're gonna go on to some other stuff. Like he wants to buddy read Canterbury Tales too. Not one of my, top books to read, but it's like a bucket list book for me.
I was gonna read it this year, but I just never got past the introduction.
I presume you read it in the Old English original.
Middle English, yeah.
Middle English.
Well, what my idea is to listen to the audiobook version of the modern English, so you get the story down.
Oh yes.
And then pick up the Old English, so you can focus on the poetry and the language, and not have to try to decipher the story at the same time.
Good idea.
So Diane says, "Oh yeah, the breakdancing, a new sport for the Olympics." That's
it won't be at the next Olympics. It was just a trial for this one.
Really?
Having it in Los Angeles.
I learned something about that. They don't call it break dancing; they just call it breaking. So I learned that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd probably break something if I tried it.
You did?
I would break something if I tried it.
If I tried it.
Me too. Pole vaulting certainly has been making some news too.
Oh, I've not heard that.
I heard a story about that, and I just said, something. Some stories I don't need.
Oh, I've been hearing a lot about polling.
Story too.
What?
What, Jim?
I think I heard the same story as Greg.
Oh, I haven't heard that story, but I've heard a lot of other stories about polling.
It's just the pole vaulter was rather well endowed and knocked the bar off because of this.
Yeah. I can see that could become a problem.
Maybe he should be a trans. No. I bet he could. Well, he could go trans pole vaulting then.
Oh God. Yeah.
No, that's bad. I'm sorry. That's totally inappropriate. Ariane, I wanted to get into the Master and the Margarita. Maybe you could have a buddy read with her.
Yeah. What do you think, Ariana? Ariane, sorry.
Two boxers actually have XY chromosomes. They're genetically male, which is what confused everyone.
I think male and female, it's more of a spectrum now. It's not binary because they have female parts and male parts as an intersex.
Yeah.
I
think the Algerian boxer from the last report was just born female, but has high level of testosterone or whatever.
Yeah, that's Iman Khelif. She was brought up a girl. She was born a girl. She brought up a girl, but she does have this XY thing. So,
no, is it XY or is it XXY?
maybe XXY, that there's a higher level of testosterone. But she's lost to female boxers before. It's just in this competition she got the gold medal.
So Elizabeth is talking, the Olympics are often desperate to find new audience with new sports. I remember ski ballet in the Winter Olympics of the 1990s. It was weird. That just sounds weird, but I can understand. I mean, like I said, I have not, the only Olympics I saw was in the bar with my beer and chicken wings. And if it hadn't been playing, I wouldn't have watched anything.
Yeah, and I just watch it at nighttime when, after I watch all my political news and nothing else is on. And then I have a book in front of my face when I watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch it on that TV right there.
So Diane, yeah, breaking. Roy's got to go.
Oh,
See
later,
you on
Roy.
the fly paper.
Thanks for stopping by, Roy.
Yeah, thanks. Aaron, Master and Margarita has been made into a graphic novel also. I did not know that.
I have Crime and Punishment as a graphic novel.
I have that one too.
You do?
Yeah.
Julio.
Oh, well, it's actually kind of curious. Where is my my Crime and Punishment of this? Hold on. Here we go. But what's curious is I have not read it yet.
Yeah, that's one I have too.
This is a modern retelling where it's actually contemporary Russia.
Oh, that's right.
It's not 19th century Petersburg.
Yeah, and they have like little posters, modern posters in the background in that.
And not a huge spoiler, but there's a pistol, which I don't think was in Dostoevsky's original.
Yeah, see, I have mine too. And
Jim, did you have something to show?
there's some nudity.
I've got a manga Bible.
A manga Bible.
Oh, wow.
It's not all graphic, but it's like there's Noah in the manga version.
What is that in English or is that another language?
No, it's in English.
It's in English. Okay.
It's a manga Bible.
Now, I'm not sure, Greg, but did they have computers back in when Crime and Punishment was written? I'm not sure, but
Babbage? When was Babbage?
I don't know. Babbage, somewhere in the late 19th century.
Yeah. The Crime and Punishment was the latter part of the 19th century, I think.
1870, 1860, something like that.
yeah, this is a great graphic novel. I really liked it. It's quite violent too. But
Are
then
you have you actually read the whole thing, Alan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Because Diane has a question. I guess not a question, but whoa, that's sweet. I read Crime and Punishment. I didn't know about the graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my favorite Dostoevsky book. Some people think Brothers Karamazov is better, and I need to reread the Brothers Karamazov.
Yeah, I read that recently. I really enjoy it. Read it for the first time. When I reread it, I'll read a better translation, but it was a Constance Garnett.
Yeah. Constance Garnett one of the complaints about her is she makes Dostoevsky and Tolstoy sound the same.
Yeah.
To the Russians, they're very different voices.
Yeah, here's my edition of it.
When you mentioned that, I used to work with a guy who was native Russian, and he says Dostoevsky is actually a very sloppy writer. There's an example from one of the more modern translations by Richard Pever and someone Volonsky, where Raskolnikov is in his little room, and someone describes a table as round and oval. And someone commented about what horrible translators they are because they said it's round and oval. That's a mistake. And someone says, no, go back to the Russian. The Russian book has the equivalent of round and oval. And so the translators just said, well, that's Dostoevsky. We're leaving it in. Now, the question is that a good translation policy to leave something so obviously a mistake because Dostoevsky was such a sloppy writer. He wrote in this white heat and never really polished up his prose.
I say keep it in, keep it.
I think there's a compromise, especially when my Russian friend says Dostoevsky. He's a sloppy writer. It's hard to read bad writing, even if the story is good and the characters are good and the ideas are good. He's just a sloppy writer. Mm-hmm. So there's a tendency to want to spruce him up a bit.
Mm. This is translated by Pavir and Volonsky.
Right.
Yeah.
Pavir and Larissa Volonsky, the Penguin Master and Margarita.
Oh, I didn't know they translated that. They translated War and Peace.
Yeah. They've done Nikolai Gogol, and they've done Dr. Zhivago.
Husband-wife team.
Yep. It's really kind of curious that I guess the method is the wife who's the native Russian. And she goes through and she just does a word-by-word literal translation. This is exactly what it's saying in Russian. And the husband goes in, and I think he might know a little bit. I mean, he's probably not fluent in Russian, but he goes in and takes that word-by-word translation and tries to whip it into an English shape.
I see.
Which makes all their translations very authentic. And whether or not that's a good thing, a lot of people say you're just making it harder on the reader, because foreign languages are different. They're not supposed to sound like English. Like Jim was saying, it's like if you're doing a book translator from the Georgian, you're going to put capital letters in it. It's because that's English.
Yeah.
Any other?
At the beginning of L'Étranger, the first line, aujourd'hui maman est morte, ou peut-être hier, je ne sais pas. In English, it's like today mother is dead, or maybe yesterday, I don't know. But how you translate maman depends.
Yes.
How we look at the central character, Meursault. If we translate maman as mother, it seems very formal. If we translate as mummy, it seems very childish.
But
translators just leave maman in there?
Right. The first English translation translated as mother.
Yes, mother. But that seems very formal, and we get this impression that Meursault is very distant from his mother, calling her mother.
But that's the trick. Is that, as I understand it, maman is something a little child. We go, maman, maman, because you're a little child and you adore your mother.
But if you say mummy or mum, it sounds more childish. So it
says mother in my translation.
Mother.
No, look at it again. It says maman.
What?
First sentence says maman. M-A-M.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, then you're right. You're right again, Greg.
Aujourd'hui, maman est morte.
Yeah, but this is mother.
Today, see. Now I understand a little bit, because aujourd'hui is a word I've learned from Duolingo. Is today, mother is dead or something.
Deceased, mother deceased. Yeah. That doesn't mean anything, but that doesn't matter. It's not my fault.
But the table is most definitely a stretched circle for sure.
Haha.
Oh, here's an interesting question for Jenny. Would translations be considered a form of fan fiction if they changed too much? That is a very curious. Let me pull out this book if I can find it. And I think I actually have an example of a book that is probably more of an inspired translation, what you say, fanfic. This is A Void by Georges Perec. Do you know this book, Jim?
It's the one without the E. Yes.
Right. Originally written in French, and no. Now the rule is that you just don't write the letter E. You cannot use a word that uses the letter E. So, like in English, you can't use it.
Yeah, or we you can't use.
You can't, or he or
I and
she. What?
We becomes I and I, or I and you.
No, but you can't do I and I. You really have to try to stick
Mhm.
to what is the language. And I think this is like really now. If Elizabeth is still here, I know Elizabeth has read this in French, but in English, the first sentence today by radio and also on giant hoardings, a rabbi, an admiral, notorious for his links to masonry, a trio of cardinals, a trio, too, of insignificant politicians, bought and paid for by a rich and corrupt Anglo-Canadian banking corporation, inform us all how our country now risks dying of starvation.
No ease.
No E's.
No E. And if you did not know, now the funny thing is, I read this with Miss Reads a lot as a buddy read. And one of the things she likes to do is she does not like to read the back covers or descriptions of books. She just wants to pick up the book. So she went into this not knowing there was no letter E. And we were on Vox. She says, there's something, she knew something was wrong with the style. And it finally struck her. It's like, wait a second, there's no E in here. Apparently, when the French book came out, one of the reviewers reviewed the book, and he got to the entire book not realizing there wasn't a letter E. And you failed as a reviewer.
Yeah, so it must be. It's quite a linguistic trick to pull that off.
It is. I mean, it's really a tour de force to read that book. Just how you communicate and do it without the letter E. It's really fantastic. Not a great story, obviously, because whatever.
Limitations, yeah.
But the limitation itself opens up other opportunities for writing. You know, because you're forced into these corners, as it were.
Yeah, very interesting.
But yeah, I mean, there's a whole thing about translations. Like Constance Garnett is like, people said she knew Russian, but she couldn't quite get it right.
And she also had these Victorian sensibilities. So she wouldn't say things that Tolstoy or Dostoevsky were saying because they were considered improper.
Right.
So she'd make to like boulderize it as well. It was.
Yeah. Now I read the Anthony Briggs translation of War and Peace twice, and then it's relatively the latest translation of it. A lot of good reviews.
Yeah, War and Peace defeated me.
Oh.
I got through Anna Karenina, but War and Peace, there's just too many characters, and
Yeah.
maybe one day.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know why I waited so long. It's one of my favorite books, War and Peace.
So good idea, Jenny. Oh, here's Elizabeth chiming in. I don't have the book right here, but there are some words that can't be in French. Canadian, politician, or homme politique. Yeah. I mean, I think this is an interpretation rather than a translation, because you have to take the general idea. And in the original one, I bet Perec just had a whole lot of different types of people. Like Trio of Cardinals may have been something else in the French, and he just swapped it out, get around that problem. Who knows?
This is a Georgian book, translated into English, translated very badly into English. The Secret of Another Desert. I underlined a lot of the things. It's at 13 a.m. There's no 13 a.m.
13 a.m.
Yeah. And then there's a few man instead of a few men, because in Georgian, if you have a number or a quantifier, you don't put the plural afterwards. But this has been translated from Georgian to English by another Georgian, so it's not good.
So the other Georgian probably was not entirely familiar with English?
Not entirely familiar with English, no.
Now, how would it do? I mean, if you typed in a Georgian sentence and have like Chat GPT translate it?
I use Google Translate a lot, and sometimes it just doesn't come up with anything like what the original was.
Because it probably knows the Georgian English dictionary and can throw it all together. But it's a word for word. Translations aren't word for word.
And they're very different languages, English and Georgian.
You're right.
English and French are closer because they have lots of words in common. Although that sometimes causes confusion because some words, sympathique is not sympathetic, it's sympathetic is compatissant in French.
Right. I remember from Spanish, imperioso. Or no, not imperioso. I think it's something. I think it's like imperioso, and it's like soy imperioso, like I'm embarrassed. But I think it's like, and my Spanish may be off, but the word in Spanish actually means pregnant.
So,
sounds a lot of same, but very different.
Yeah, especially coming from like a man. Oh, I'm so muy embroso.
But no, Jim, you're talking about Constant Garnett, and there's actually a key. It's very near the beginning of the Brothers Karamazov. They have a character named Liza Shmerdakov. And Shmerdakov is like the daughter of basically poop or something like that. Or basically Dostoevsky saying she's smelly. And usually when you get an English translation, they go stinky Lizaveta. That's her name, not Lisa. Or smelly Lizaveta. Some translators just leave it as Shmerdakov and put a footnote saying Shmerdakov to a Russian has the connotation of being stinky, poopy. But Constant Garnett, just cut that out. Because
Victorian sensibility.
Oh, you can't call a lady stinky.
How dare you?
How dare you? Even though the character really was not much of a lady, but Constance saying hi, Diane. I enjoyed The War and Peace. It took me 3 months to read, but I read the Constant Garnett translation.
Yeah, I mean, any translation, is worth the effort. But I really liked who is James Woods, his translation of The Magic Mountain, because I have another one too by a different translator. wanna
Oh
read
yes, the Magic Mountain. I have two translations of. I will have one physical copy and two Kindle copies that you can compare the two different translations with.
Nice. Aaron Fraser liked that book too, The Magic Mountain, quite a bit.
I did that a couple years ago as a group read.
Yeah, I was in there.
It was good. Now the problem with the Magic Mountain is that book is so dense. There's so much packed into every chapter that you could read a chapter and do a lot of research and get into every meaning Thomas Mann had, and it would take you a year or two to get through the book.
Sure. But the story is so intense and bizarre that, it's.
Yeah, I just read the book. Oh, I actually listened to the audiobook version of the James Wood translation while reading along. And
I
that
probably
really,
did that too. That's my MO too for Be Heard books.
yep. So Jenny says, I'm definitely getting an audio book for whenever I'm brave enough to tackle that beast.
What beast?
I think she's talking War and Peace.
Oh, yeah, I have the audiobook of it too from Audible.
Yeah, what I did is I started off with the Peter and Larissa translation on my Kindle because now the problem with their translation is there's a lot of French in that book.
Mm-hmm.
And they leave the French untranslated in the text of the book.
Right, so you have to go to the end note.
You have to go to the end note, and it just made reading harder.
Yeah, that's the good thing about Anthony Briggs.
No, that's right. I started off with the Briggs.
Oh.
And I switched to the Pever when I went to the Dominican Republic because I had a physical copy of the Briggs translation, and it's a big book.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. And then I switched over to an audio version of the Maud translation.
Yeah, I read the Maud translation too. Do I have it? No, I just have Briggs. But the Maud, that gets good. The Maud translation is a good one.
They're fun.
Yeah.
I got the Maud translation of Anna Karenina.
Yeah, maybe that's. You know what version of or translation of Anna Karenina I have? I have the PV one.
Okay.
So, yeah. But I'm trying to find out who I had read. I thought for sure I had the Magic Mountain on Audible, maybe not. But I do have on Audible, and I bet you do too, Greg, is Remembrance of Things Past.
I don't have the Audible.
You don't? Yeah, I'm going to commit to reading a little bit about Proust with you guys.
Okay. Now the one about Proust is the Audible version is based on the original translation of Mark Reef, and he's been revised a couple of times. So you're going to get the original English translation, which actually a lot of people say is, for the most part, an excellent translation.
Good.
Now, the problem is they said, yeah, it could be improved upon.
This is Audible.
Oh, shoot.
À la recherche du temps perdu. By Marcel Proust.
À la recherche du temps perdu. Yes.
Are you a Proust fan?
The first volume?
Yes. It's not the whole volume.
No.
Now,
I
Jim,
haven't
can you read that in French?
I haven't read it. I could read it in French. French is the only language I can read fairly fluently. Georgian, I'm struggling. This is why I got the 7 to 9 year old book for Georgian.
Well,
Also
Jim,
in Georgian, if they have some Russian, they don't translate it. They just leave it in the Russian because most Georgians know Russian. But it's a completely different language to Georgian. Georgian is not a Slavic language at all. It's its own thing. It's Kartvelian.
Right. I think it's one of those languages that is not related to another language. Is that correct?
It's only related to other languages in this region, which are even smaller, like Svan and Laz. But it has a lot of borrowed words from Russian, from Turkish, and from Persian. Like window, Panjara is from Persian, because Georgia was invaded by Persia and Turkey and Russia.
I have a question, Jim. How long have you lived in your current neighborhood or house or?
This house, maybe 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. Do the people in your area still ask you questions about, where you were born in that, or,
Yeah, well, I'm teaching English and I'm teaching, so they ask me where I'm from, things like this.
True.
And they keep saying, "Are you from America?" I say, "No, I'm from London."
Right. Yeah, I never thought about that, but sure, I bet you talk about that quite a bit. And like Mark at Book Time with Elvis, living in a different country.
He's living in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Joe Swagman is on BookTube. He's in Vietnam, I think, and
yeah,
the guy, Disappointed Man, is in Taiwan. So there's a few English teachers on BookTube in different countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back in the day, I read all those Joe Planet books teaching English in Japan, and had friends go to Taiwan. And I had a good friend who ended up getting his PhD in Tibetan art history in Seoul, Korea. He was an American, and just another road not taken for me. I almost went in the Peace Corps. I got my shots at the Army base in Phoenix and everything. I was all ready to go. Something came up though, and I didn't go. But I was going to go to Bangkok, Thailand.
Oh.
Good thing I didn't go. Maybe you never know what would happen. I might end up in although what Midnight Express was Turkey, but
Yeah, and he was smuggling drugs out. So
the producer of Midnight Express was also Armenian, so he hates the Turks anyway. So he was trying to point them in a very bad light.
That's a good point. I didn't know that.
Alan Parker directed it, but the producer, the money for it was Armenian.
Ah,
okay.
I've been to Georgia has 4 bordering countries: Turkey, Russia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. I've only been to Turkey. I've been to Turkey several times, but I haven't been to Russia, Armenia, or Azerbaijan yet.
Yeah.
Would be an issue traveling over the border, Jim? Huh? Would there be an issue crossing the border?
To Russia, there may be some problems because of the war at the moment. But Armenia and Azerbaijan, I could visit either of those. It's not a good idea to visit both of them because they hate each other.
Oh, yeah.
So what you're saying is, if your passport says you visited Armenia, they would get mad.
Yeah, I think if you want to visit both, it's best to visit Azerbaijan. No, Armenia first, because Azerbaijan's not too bothered about it, but Armenia's really bothered if you got an Azeri stamp in your passport.
Yeah,
but they really don't get on.
I'm reminded of Roz again. She does a lot of scaladiddling, and she just did a vlog from Turkey earlier this year, and really liked it.
Yeah, I like Turkey. There's so many things to see in Turkey. There's the cave cities of Cappadocia. There's the ruins of Ephesus. There's Istanbul, which is the biggest city in Europe, with all its influences from the Greeks, the Byzantines, the Turks.
Yeah. And who's that writer who wrote the 40 Rules of Love and some other? Yeah, I like her a lot. I've read a couple of her books, 2, 3.
Yeah, this is Elif Shafak, The Bastard of Istanbul.
Yeah, I read that.
This is about an Armenian American who goes to Istanbul to try to find her roots. And in Turkey, you can't mention the genocide, the Armenian genocide. It's verboten. Elif Shafak had to go to court to defend herself under Article 307 of the Turkish penal law because it's considered un-Turkish to even mention the genocide.
Oh.
She didn't go to prison, but she had her day in court, and Pamuk as well has had trouble with that. The other big George Pamuk got the Nobel Prize for Literature as well.
Yeah, I've read one book by Pamuk, Snows of Something.
Snow, yeah, it's set in the East in Kars.
Yeah, that was I actually really enjoyed that book.
Yeah, it was good. I think Snow was the first I read, but this is my favorite. My Name is Red. This is set at the time, I think, 17th century. 16th century.
Okay.
Where all the miniaturists painting and things and the rivalry between them. And it's,
I have My Name is Red on my Kindle to read someday.
well, I'd recommend this one. I wouldn't recommend all of his books. I didn't like The Museum of Innocence. And I didn't like Nights of Plague. I did like this one. This is a memoir of the city of Istanbul. We're talking about growing up in Istanbul and his memories of it. This was really good as well. And I like Elif Shafak a lot. And a lot of her books have been translated into Georgian. She's very popular here.
Yeah, I've read one of hers. I can't remember the name.
There's Honor.
It was fairly recent, within the past 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, I haven't read all of them, but this one's the one I like of hers, The Bastard of Istanbul.
I like the 40 Rules of Love with Rumi and the
and my wife likes the 40 Rules of Love.
Does she read it in English or does she read it in
She read it in English because I had the copy in English.
Okay.
Yeah, how was I wanted to mention the first time you were on, Jim, was memorable because I was at Gray's house in Fredericksburg, and boy, that was a good episode. That was a lively one. Your wife joined us, and the kids came along.
Yeah,
that was very
and
memorable.
we have Steve watching us. Hey, Steve. Just look at all the background books in these 3 views.
Yeah, and this is one of your top 10 books, Steve.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. We mentioned you, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought The Magic Mountain was one of Steve's top 10 books, but it wasn't.
No.
There's things like Metamorphoses by Ovid, I think. It's one of it.
Yep. And Diane says, is Pamuk Georgian? No, Pamuk is Turkish.
This is Georgian. This Nino Haratashvili. This is the Georgian version of The Eighth Life. This was a big read. It's a very big read.
And that wasn't written in Georgian. That was written in German?
It was written in German, and it was on the long list for the book International Booker in 2020. It's a good read. It's about like 3 generations of a Georgian family over the 20th century. So you get the Russian Revolution, the Second World War, and all these things that happen, and the independence at the end of the century.
That sounds, I mean, I have it on my list of books that I kind of want to read someday, but it's a big book.
It's the March of the Mammoths. It's a big book.
It's like 800 pages, yeah.
This is over 1,200 pages in Georgian.
Now, is that just the way the language works, or is it just...
I think it might be 900 and something in English, but it's 1195 pages, the Georgian version.
Okay.
It's a big book.
Is the English one isn't edited down, or is it just the way that English is a more succinct language?
Yeah, Georgian has lots of very long words.
All right.
This is one I want to get to as well as another Georgian. I've had seen mixed reviews of this. Brian at Bookish really likes it. Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot hated it. And locally, some people have really liked it and some people have hated it. So I don't know.
I don't think I have read anything translated from the Georgian. There was a book that's relatively short. I know I saw it on your channel, Jim.
Is that Iggy?
No, not Iggy. It was more modern. It's on my list of Kindle books to buy someday. And I was looking, it was like $4.95 or something. I said, I'll buy that someday. Now it's like $12.95. And I'm like, missed my opportunity, but whatever.
Yeah, my Kindle limit is like $2.99 usually.
I go over that occasionally because there's a lot of good books that I want. But
Garbology was $2.99, so that was just in my comfort zone.
Now I got to remember what that Georgian book. So if you were to recommend a book translated from the Georgian, relatively easy for people to find and buy.
Well, The Eighth Life, as you say, is translated from the German, but it's very good. Everybody who's read it, all the booktubers who've read it, have really liked it. Debs at Raynor Reads really liked it. It's a couple of others who've really liked it. This one's divisive. So Brian at Bookish liked this. But Scott thought of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot thought it was like a Dan Brown book. So I'm not sure. It's been on my TBR for a while, but because I'm reading Black Leopard, Red Wolf, I haven't got to it yet.
Brian's given me quite a few great book recommendations. One is on my TBR too. I think I've mentioned a few times in the past is At Night All Blood is Black.
Yeah, I read that. Diop.
Yeah, I read it too. I liked it well enough, but it did not inspire me the way it inspired Brian.
Oh, is it memorable to you, or?
Yeah, it's a memorable book. It's about the brutality of the First World War and these two Senegalese soldiers, and one of them's killed at the beginning, and he asks his friend to finish him off, and his friend won't do that, and then his friend becomes this monster in the trenches.
Now I heard you mention that Garbology is only $2.99 on Kindle.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
great.
9.
Wow,
Alan, you should have gotten the Kindle version.
I did,
as a contributor.
I did. Then I got 2 copies. Yeah.
Wait a second. I thought you only contributed one piece of art.
I did.
Or does every contributor get 2 copies?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Yeah, that's going. That's about par for the course, and even like University Press, they don't pay you either. Just 2 copies. The Stitching Society, though, actually paid us.
I got this for Dark August. I saw Criminoli was reading it. Dawn. Virginia Andrews, but this is not the original VC Andrews. It's after.
This is the guy who took over.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't recognize it. It had her name, not VC.
Well, that's just the British. In Britain, it's always Virginia Andrews, and in the United States, it's VC Andrews.
Oh, I see.
I tried reading her famous one,
Flowers in the Attic.
For the first Garbaga, and I DNF'd it. I did not even get to the naughty bits.
You didn't like the weird family, and
It just was boring. When you read, sometimes you read a story, it's like, nah.
yeah, it's kind of weird language or syntax. I haven't read one since I was a wee lad.
And I got this as well for Garb August, just for the cover.
Ah,
And again, Molly
cover.
likes it with Bane.
McBain.
I don't know if he's really a trashy. I mean, he's
Procedural, right?
What?
McBain,
yeah,
procedural.
definitely.
Yeah, those are cool to read.
hmm So we got a comment from Jenny.
You got to
Excuse
check
me.
that cough out, Greg. You've been coughing for months.
Well, yeah, check the waiting list down in Virginia to get in to see a doctor. It's like 3 months.
Oh, really? Damn, man. Mine's been really good up here.
Yeah, divisive books always seem more interesting, especially if people don't even agree on what makes it good or bad.
True. I famously argue with Brian about, Ulysses, and then we argue about Wuthering Heights. I'm a Wuthering Heights fan. He's not.
I like Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I DNF'd that one, which is kind of curious.
Oh.
Jenny was saying I need to learn to DNF, but I don't like quitting. I am fine quitting the book.
Yeah, I am too. So there needs to be another term for DNF for me, like Lincoln and the Bardo. I'll come back to, but at the time it wasn't clicking with me. That's written in a kind of strange way. What's this?
DNF.
DNF. Haha.
It's on Little Dorrit, but here it means do not forget, did not finish. But
That's funny, Jim.
Yeah, Jenny, it's something I've heard about. I think Michael K. Vaughan's very famous for this, that he can't put a book down and not finish it.
My father's like that.
But for me, it's like
Yeah, me too.
I was reading a book for my in-person book group. Was it a month ago? And I got like 60% in. And I said, because it was Christian fiction. I don't know if the person
Excellent.
who picked it kind of knew it was Christian fiction. And I just got so annoyed.
Was it the Left Behind series?
No, it was actually a murder mystery with a dog.
Oh, Lord.
And then the dog was not part of it. I mean, the dog was just a dog.
Oh.
The woman was a canine search and rescue woman. And she was slowly being converted to Christianity by her companion. And I'm just saying, I just don't care. Now, the thing is,
IDK.
if the characters were just Christian and they weren't building up to that, that's fine. But the purpose of the book was to get this character to the point where she converted to Christianity. And I'm saying,
agenda. Yeah.
no, thank you.
the only physical book I've been sent by an author was this, and this is Christian fantasy.
Christian fantasy.
It's the only physical book I've ever been sent because I got a BookTube channel.
I'm tempted to say I was sent that too, but I was sent something similar, right?
I think a couple of other booktubers got this as well. I think Falcon Reed's got this and hated it.
Yeah. I gave it to my dad. But
I had a couple.
Not to make fun of Christian fiction too much, because I did read the Left Behind series. I was in the joint when I read it, so any good read is cherished. But
I read the Narnia books as a kid. They were fine. It's like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and all that.
Yeah, he's a.
These are some of my books by booktubers.
I have not been sent a book by a BookTube author yet. I've had a couple of viewers send me books just because they said, "Oh, you might like this book." Let me send it to you.
Cool.
But no authors have sent me books yet.
These ones I bought from Amazon, but they're by
Okay.
BookTube.
Yeah, that's good. Good on you, Jim.
Now,
Good for
my
us.
my only concern is let's just say I bought a book by a booktuber, the channel. I read it, and I think it's not so great.
Exactly.
That's when you DNF.
But what do you do? I mean, what if somebody sends you that? I've had a booktuber send me a book of poetry, and I did not particularly like it. So I that's awkward.
It is
It
not
is,
because at least in one case of an author I know, I read the book, and it wasn't a bad book. And don't mention any names.
Yeah. Okay.
But I did not like it as much as some people did. So I just sort of like declined to mention it in my reading wrap up.
Sure.
Now, am I doing people a disservice? Because if you read a book and you don't think it's up to snuff, can you say so when you know that the author is going to watch you? Say so.
Yeah, it's awkward.
Yes.
It's a fine line.
We talked about this one by Pay. This one was really good. That's my favorite from any booktuber.
Now, were you telling me that, Jim, or someone else? Because I want
We
to.
were talking about this because you said you were a friend of Pai's.
Yes.
He hasn't made any videos in a while, but this was a really good book. It's about a girl in the west of France who wakes up and she's lost her memory and she's trying to piece together her life. It's quite philosophical as well. They got the myth of Sisyphus rolled into it. There's lots of.
I think I have that book, actually. I think I bought it on Kindle.
Yeah, no, I'd recommend it. It was.
Well, I have
I
to
think
buddy
it's
read
one of my
that,
top 3 books in 2022.
Let's put that on the list to buddy read like next year. I've heard good things about it.
I've heard someone give that book Jim. It might have been you.
I
Gave that book
I gave it a good review.
Someone gave it a really good view, and I went out and bought the Kindle version. So, Diane, wow, I've never seen a British VC Andrews book like that. I like her books.
Yeah, neither have I.
I might try one of her books again. I might try an audiobook version instead of the print version or digital. See if the audio version gels with me.
I think this is a book club version. It says BCA. I think it's a book club.
Hey, Aaron Facer is here.
Hey,
He likes our
Aaron,
caps.
our mate from Wales.
Yeah, Aaron's got a good idea. Don't announce it that you're reading it and don't review it.
Yeah, hold on. I'm getting down to that one. Say shelving instead of DNF, Alan.
Yes, I read that. Thanks.
Jenny
Aaron.
says, I even have to finish a series, even if I'm not enjoying the book. Oh, that's a tough one.
DNFing is healthy.
It is.
The more I read, the more healthy I feel. DNF is. I think it's something from our childhood. Like you start something, you have to finish it. Like you start your food, you have to finish it. You start the book. You have to
Yeah.
Oh,
don't
like
wanna
I,
waste-
like when I was growing up, it's like if food's on your plate, you have to eat it all.
Yeah. You won't get
Yeah.
your dessert if you don't eat your dinner.
But I've heard in foreign countries, if you do that and don't leave a little on your plate, they think you're still hungry.
Yeah.
So they'll bring you more.
And Georgia, the Georgian weddings, they keep bringing more and more. It's just too much.
I've been to a couple Polish weddings, and I love Polish weddings. Oh, I love the food.
Yeah.
I love dancing.
Georgian weddings have got dancing as well, but the Georgian folk dancing, it's something
Well,
else.
but when you talk about that, Jim, my wife likes to host the neighbors, like card games every now and then. And we usually buy pizza. She always buys too much pizza. I'm saying you don't need 4 pizzas. But there's something in her mind is she does not want the neighbors who've eaten 2 slices but want 3, and there's not another slice for them. So there's some horrifying, like, we failed our neighbors because we didn't have enough pizza that they could stuff.
Yeah, it was a good party, but boy, I could have went for another slice. I tell you.
Right. And my opinion is, if everyone has a slice of pizza or two, you're good.
Sure.
Here's Aaron. Don't announce you are reading it and don't review. If you bought it, that is harder if you've been given it, I'm sure.
Yes.
Lost in the Post. Oh, I never got that book.
Oh, I'll send you another one.
Yeah.
It's, I think I would hope that most authors know that not everyone is going to love their book. You have certain readers that are right for a book and certain readers that are wrong for the book.
Right. New authors, though, can be so sensitive,
Yeah. Alan, that's right, Alan, about food service. We don't have that problem. Like I said, we don't have that problem in the U.S. You get what you get. They're not going to give you more. Jenny says you can never have too much pizza.
Right.
Try eating that leftover pizza over 3 days. You can have too much pizza.
I like pizza cold. I like pizza hot, but like some foods I like cold, like pizza, fried chicken I like cold. Like Chinese food. I had some cold Chinese food the other day. That was good.
YouTube authors. I do want to read Katie's books from Books and Things.
Oh, yeah.
I bought a digital copy of Cameron's book from Library Macabre.
Yeah, I'd like to read her first book, too. I still haven't gotten around to reading it, but
The Secrets of Hartwood Hall.
yes.
That's
Yeah, I remember one day I walked into my neighborhood library and they had her book faced, like new releases. I'm going, wow, cool. All the way over here in Hollywood District, Portland, Oregon. Now, when Brian is our guest next
Is he next week?
Yeah, I think. I'm going to ask about, I always heard, now you disagreed with me, Greg, but I always heard that, like, if an author gets picked up by a library, around the world, they kind of hit it big, but that's not necessarily the case, or
I don't know.
I have to ask Brian.
I read a few of Margaret Penard's.
I have that, and I want to read it, but I've never gotten around to it.
Oh, I haven't either.
Brian
She lives in Portland.
Yeah, it's about set in the early 19th century about Scots moving to Canada and trying to survive.
Oh, I like the title, The Keening.
Yeah.
The King, yeah. The King is the first of three, but you can just read it as a standalone if you want. There's the others are The Grasping Root and Stormrack and Spindrift.
Ah,
So it's all about this same family from Scotland that goes to Canada and what happens to them.
Mm-hmm. And here we go.
The second book is out already. The Trouble of Mrs. Montgomery Hearst.
Jenny. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
No, it's through Katie that I heard about BookTube originally, because I
You
had
know,
this
me too.
long-term project to read all of Charles Dickens' books. So I was just looking for YouTube videos about Charles Dickens, and I saw Katie's video and heard about BookTube, which is how I got into this.
I've seen her Victorian books. I didn't know she wrote her own books.
Yeah.
She's written two now. She's written two.
Yeah.
She writes fiction, I presume.
Yeah.
Fiction, yeah. Fiction set in the Victorian times, but with a modern sensibility, a bit like
Okay.
John Fowles with The French Lieutenant's Woman.
Yeah, she's a real productive person. I mean, she works full time, or she used to, because, I'm like you, Jim. I got into BookTube not necessarily because of her, but she was definitely one of the first person that I subscribed to. And, yeah, I think she She's an
Okay, so
editor.
wait, no, wait, so Jim, she's actually professionally published.
Yes,
Yeah, it's by
Okay.
Penguin.
that's what I was
Penguin.
saying, Greg.
Not like
Like,
self-published.
their books are in the library, and when I walked into my local library, it was Face. Now, I I comment on her videos sometimes, but she's a editor, a writer, uh, just a reader. How does she do it all?
Mm-hmm.
And she's read most of Dickens like about 4 or 5 times each of Dickens' novels, and they're big
Yes.
chunks.
That's a lot of Dickens.
Yes.
Yeah, and she
Yes.
worked in the Jane Austen Museum in Bath as well. She knows a lot about Jane Austen as well as Dickens.
Yep.
And all
Yeah,
the 19th century authors.
She used to work at, I think, the Jane Austen place and dress up in the period and all that.
Okay.
So, a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, that's the latest one. The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hearst, a second. It just come out very recently.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look for it on Kindle to see if I can get a good deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm waiting for a good deal. These are the samples from Kindle.
So Aaron says pizza any which way. Strongly agree. Lee, my Chinese friends say they should always leave a few kernels of rice on your plate for the ancestors.
Yes.
Aaron, I have read Heartwood Hall. Well worth the read. Looking forward to Katie's second book in the future. Lee says Katie's books are really good. I want her latest. And Diane, she's an editor, I think. Okay.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen. We've been here 1 hour and 56 minutes.
Oh, already? Wow.
Yeah, nearly 2 hours.
Yeah, it's getting late for Jim, right?
For me, I'm fine, but it's 11 o'clock here nearly, almost 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Midnight's my bedtime.
All right. Well, we got a few things more we can talk about, then call it a night. So, any other YouTube projects or events people are going to be participating in?
Well, it's just Garb August. There's Faulkner in August, but I'm not reading anything for that.
Right.
Have you read a book called The Hamlet? Great.
Yes, we did that last year. We did the whole Snopes trilogy.
Yeah, I like this. I like the Snopes. A lot of people don't, but it was good.
I like the Hamlet. I think Hamlet was good. The second two, the Town and the Mansion, or is it the Mansion and the Town?
Yeah,
I think Faulkner was running out of writing steam at that point.
Well, yeah, they say that those novels were like his stories redone. In fact, I was down a rabbit hole for Faulkner in August, and there's a book, you probably heard of it, Greg, the Uncollected Stories of Faulkner.
I've heard. I used to have a copy, but I don't have a copy.
Yeah. So they're like different versions. Before he started really editing them, he's kind of infamous for going back and editing his stuff to death. But I'd like to read that. I'm gonna propose on the 15th. We'll come up with start thinking about what we're gonna read for next year.
Oh no! Oh no!
I'm not gonna even do it. But I'd like to read his stories, or Go Down Moses or The Unvanquished.
Well, see, my three would be Go Down Moses, The Unvanquished, or Flags in the Dust, or Sartorus Flags in the Dust. Now, Flags in the Dust, Sartorus, I don't think is supposed to be a great book, but it's his start of Yoknapatawpha County.
Sartorus,
sometimes called Flags in the Dust, depending on your edition.
Well, I have Sartorus. Look at this old cover, Greg.
That's a great old cover.
Yep, 35 cents.
Yeah, now that one, as I understand it, the editors cut out a lot of the book.
I'll have to get another copy then.
The what is it? I have my copy, Flags in the Dust, where it starts, Old Man Falls roared. Connell was sitting there in a chair, his sock feet propped on a porch railing. And you, if I'm not mistaken, start off with something.
As usual, Old Man Falls had brought John Sartoris into the room with him.
Yeah. So this is his original manuscript for the novel, and you have the original published version.
Yeah, I have to get that one.
And I would be remiss if I did not mention Framed in September is the art
yes.
is the event that I'm co-hosting next month.
Yep, and I'm all ready to read Letters of Vincent van Gogh. And I'll read some other books, and I'll go to the museum. You know, me and Christopher Evening Star went to see Monet to Matisse. What's that, Jim?
He has Vincent by himself.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I haven't done any watercolor painting in months, so I'll probably do a watercolor.
Okay. All
Maybe
right.
I'll try to copy a painting or do it in some kind of impressionistic style or something.
All right.
Wow, I got a lot of these art books.
Oh, great.
Oh, cool.
Da Vinci.
Not Da
No,
Vinci,
Venice.
Yeah.
pre-Raphaelite, Rembrandt. But I find that the pictures are good, but when you read them, it's not so interesting. It's rather dry, the reading, for a
Oh,
lot of things. It's just explaining or describing the paintings and things. There's a very good book, Renoir, by his son, who was the film director, Jean Renoir, talking about his father, Pierre Auguste Renoir.
now I've got all these like the world of books, like the world of Da Vinci and Michelangelo and Rubens and didn't you say you had one, Greg, that if
Goya.
around you might let me have it, or
Yeah, if you need it, yeah.
which one is it?
Goya.
Oh, wow. He's an interesting painter.
Yes, he is. All right.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry for lunch.
All right.
Him and Edward Hopper.
Oh,
I know.
wow, you're really
You
prepared.
have quite a bit of art books. All my art books are in another room, so I can't show you them.
Right, but I'm sure you'll be. It's a great event, quite unusual too.
Yeah,
It's a good idea.
it is. All right. Well, I'm losing my voice. Actually.
Well, another great pub night. I'm reminded when I was a kid with my like CB radio and talking to the neighborhood, and now here I am, all these years later, talking, foreign countries and friends around the world. My 13-year-old self would be geeking out.
Right. Young Stalin.
Yeah, you showed that book before.
Georgian.
Yes.
Okay.
Claim to fame was born there, huh?
Yeah.
He was born there, right?
Yeah.
Gori, which is not far from Tbilisi. I've been to his museum in Gori.
There's a couple of Stalin biographies. I have I don't know if it's that one that you have, but I have like the first volume of a 2-volume series. That's
This is 2 volumes. This is before he became the head of the Soviet Union, young Stalin, and then as Stalin, the Red Tsar, when he is the head of the Soviet
okay.
Union.
That might be the one that I'd have to go check. But all right, everyone.
All right.
I have great time, and Jim, thanks so much for showing up.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you for inviting me. It's been
Yeah.
great to be on again.
It is, and thank you for everyone who showed up in our chat room and made this a lively conversation.
Yes.
And next week, Alan, I think it's Brian.
Yeah, Brian at Bookish.
Brian at Book.
Yeah,
I'll
good.
contact him. All right, everyone. Have a good night.
I'm off for pizza.